Welcome to VNT. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon for more breaking updates. It's a cold December evening in 2018 at Vancouver International Airport. The terminal is bustling with travelers, unaware that history is about to unfold in their midst. Among the arrivals is Meng Wanzhou, a prominent figure in the global tech world, stepping off her flight with no idea of the storm awaiting her. Suddenly, Canadian authorities approach Meng. She is the chief financial officer of Huawei, one of the world's largest technology companies, and the daughter of its powerful founder, Ren Zhengfei. Acting on a request from the United States, the police detain her right there in the airport. The news spreads like wildfire, sending shockwaves through the business and diplomatic communities worldwide. Overnight, Canada finds itself thrust into the center of a global crisis. The United States demands Meng's extradition, accusing her of violating sanctions against Iran. China, on the other hand, is outraged, calling the arrest a politically motivated attack on one of its national champions. Canadian officials are caught in the crossfire, facing pressure from both sides as the world watches. The timing couldn't be more volatile. The US and China are already locked in a bitter trade war, with tariffs and threats flying back and forth. At the heart of the dispute is technology, specifically the rise of Huawei, which Washington claims poses a national security risk. The arrest of Meng Wanzhou instantly becomes a flashpoint in this escalating rivalry, fueling suspicions and deepening mistrust between the two superpowers. After her arrest, Meng is released on bail but placed under strict house arrest in Vancouver. For nearly 3 years, she lives in a luxurious mansion, but her freedom is an illusion. She must wear a GPS ankle bracelet at all times. Her movements are closely monitored, and she is constantly accompanied by security. The world's media camp outside her home, capturing every moment of her highly publicized confinement. Meng's detention quickly becomes more than just a legal matter. It's a powerful symbol of the growing divide between China and the West. News outlets dissect every development, while politicians and analysts debate what it means for the future of international relations. The case becomes a lightning rod for tensions that have been simmering for years. The Canadian government insists it is simply following the rule of law, acting on a legitimate extradition request from its ally. But the diplomatic fallout is swift and severe. China retaliates by detaining Canadian citizens, and relations between the countries plummet to new lows. The world's attention is fixed on Canada, as it tries to navigate this treacherous diplomatic terrain. As the legal proceedings drag on, it becomes clear that Meng's fate is about much more than her own actions. She is now a pawn in a much larger geopolitical chess game, her future tied to the shifting balance of power between nations. Every court hearing, every diplomatic statement, is scrutinized for signs of what might come next. The legal battle officially begins in Vancouver's courts, but its consequences ripple far beyond the city, or even the country. The outcome will shape not only Meng's life, but also the future of global trade, technology, and diplomacy. Around the globe, people watch as 3 powerful nations become locked in a high-stakes standoff. The world waits, holding its breath to see how this extraordinary saga will unfold, and what it will mean for the future of international relations. The US accuses Meng of bank and wire fraud, claiming she played a central role in a complex financial scheme. Prosecutors allege she misled HSBC about Huawei's ties to Skycom, a company secretly operating in Iran despite international restrictions. This, the US claims, put HSBC at risk of violating strict American sanctions on Iran, exposing the bank to severe penalties. The charges hinge on the idea that using the US financial system makes foreign companies subject to American law, even if they operate abroad. Canada, bound by its extradition treaty with the US, detains Meng at the Americans' request, sparking international headlines. China calls the arrest political, insisting the US is targeting Huawei to gain an edge in the global tech war and undermine Chinese innovation. The stage is set for a dramatic clash over law, politics, and global power, with the world watching closely. China responds to Meng Wanzhou's arrest with swift and vocal outrage, igniting a wave of anger across the country. The news dominates headlines, with Chinese officials condemning Canada's actions and framing the arrest as a blatant affront to their sovereignty. At press conferences, government spokespeople demand Meng's immediate release, warning of grave consequences if their calls are ignored. The tension between the two nations escalates rapidly, with the world watching closely. Just days after Meng's arrest, 2 Canadians, Michael Kovrig, a former diplomat, and Michael Spavor, a businessman, are suddenly detained in China. Authorities accuse them of endangering national security, but the timing is impossible to ignore. Their arrest is widely seen as a calculated act of retaliation, a stark contrast to Meng's situation. While Meng awaits her fate in a Vancouver mansion under house arrest, the two Michaels are plunged into a harsh and uncertain reality. The men are held in isolated prison cells, subjected to harsh conditions, and denied access to lawyers and family. Their basic rights are routinely ignored, and their fate becomes a symbol of the growing rift between China and the West. As the world reacts, the term hostage diplomacy enters the global conversation, highlighting the use of innocent individuals as bargaining chips in international disputes. For more than 1,000 days, the two Michaels remain imprisoned, their lives on hold as Meng's legal battle drags on in Canadian courts. Each passing day deepens the uncertainty and the sense of injustice. In Canada, public outcry grows. Lawmakers, citizens, and families demand action, while the government faces mounting pressure to choose between upholding the rule of law and securing the freedom of its citizens. China makes its position clear. The fate of the two Michaels is directly linked to Meng's release. The message is unmistakable. This is a high-stakes diplomatic standoff. In this tense global power struggle, two innocent men become pawns, their freedom hanging in the balance as nations clash on the world stage. In a dramatic escalation, China abruptly bans canola imports from Canada's largest exporters, citing the presence of pests in shipments, a claim that many experts and officials in Canada view with deep skepticism. The timing and severity of the ban suggest motives that go far beyond agricultural concerns, hinting at a much larger diplomatic rift between the two countries. Canola, often called liquid gold for its value to Canadian farmers, is suddenly left with nowhere to go. China, which had been the single largest buyer, slams its doors shut, sending shockwaves through rural communities. Prices for canola plummet almost overnight, and farmers, many of whom rely on canola for their livelihoods, are thrown into uncertainty and financial distress. Across the prairies, ships that once carried millions of tons of canola to China now sit idle at port. Grain elevators overflow with unsold harvest, and storage facilities fill to capacity. Billions of dollars in revenue are suddenly at risk, threatening not just individual farmers, but the entire agricultural economy. The message from Beijing is unmistakable. Economic pain will be used as leverage in a broader political struggle. The canola ban is not just about crops, it's about power, influence, and sending a warning to Ottawa. As the crisis deepens, farmers gather in town halls and fields, voicing their frustration and fear. Business leaders warn of ripple effects across the supply chain, while politicians from all parties call for urgent action to protect Canada's agricultural heartland and restore access to global markets. The canola ban quickly becomes another front in an already tense diplomatic standoff. Behind closed doors, officials scramble to negotiate, but trust is in short supply and solutions seem elusive. The shockwaves reach far beyond the farm. The Toronto Stock Exchange dips, business confidence falters, and export warehouses stand empty. China's willingness to weaponize trade leaves Canada's economy exposed and vulnerable. In Ottawa, the pressure mounts. Government officials hold emergency meetings, and the Prime Minister faces tough questions from the public and the press. The search for a diplomatic breakthrough becomes urgent as the livelihoods of thousands hang in the balance. Once symbols of prosperity, the golden fields of Western Canada now stand as a stark reminder of how global disputes can hit home. For farmers and their communities, the battle over canola is more than a trade war. It's a fight for survival. For Canadian farmers, the canola ban is devastating. Livelihoods and mental health are at stake. Many face financial ruin, forced to sell at a loss or store unsold crops. The crisis ripples through rural communities, hurting equipment dealers, truckers, and small businesses. Farmers feel like collateral damage in a distant political fight. Calls for government support grow, but relief is limited. The experience exposes Canada's vulnerability to single market dependence. The lesson is harsh. Global politics can upend local lives overnight. Farmers demand action and diversification to protect their future. The true cost of the trade war is measured in lost livelihoods and shaken communities. After nearly 3 years, a breakthrough. Meng strikes a deal with the US, admitting to misleading HSBC but avoiding a guilty plea. The US drops its extradition request, and Meng is freed, flying home to a hero's welcome in China. Almost simultaneously, the two Michaels are released from Chinese prison and return to Canada. The timing leaves no doubt, they were bargaining chips in a geopolitical standoff. Relief sweeps Canada, but the scars remain. Farmers hope for renewed trade, but the canola ban lingers. The human drama ends, but economic wounds take longer to heal. The crisis is over, but its impact will last. The Meng-Wanzhou saga forces Canada to confront its place between two superpowers. The canola crisis exposes the risks of relying on a single market and the dangers of weaponized trade. Canada pivots to diversify exports, seeking new markets in Asia, Europe, and Latin America. Trust with China is slow to rebuild. The canola ban isn't lifted until late 2023. The episode sparks a national debate on foreign policy and economic resilience. The memory of hostage diplomacy lingers, shaping future decisions. The lesson: in a volatile world, alliances, diversification, and principle are essential. Canada's experience is a warning and a guide for nations navigating global power struggles.